How do you think we future-proof our roles as CMOs?
I think we constantly have to be looking at how things are evolving. So my team within the planning cycle, we're looking every 6 months to say, in a couple of years' time, what are things going to look like? Constantly looking at the market. So Gartner, for example, talk about moving from information authority to an information connector, and how do we manage that? What does that team look like? What are the skills going to be needed? So it's always getting the new thinking in.
Building on that, Shalou, new thinking, art and science still. How do we future-proof our roles?
You know, if we look at what we have available to us, and now we're looking at intent data, you know, never before have we had so much insight into a prospect. You know, we really literally, you know, can do some progressive profiling and almost, you know, understand what they're about to do before they actually even do it. So for me, it's all about just making sure that we know how to use the tools and the data. Because we've got access to an abundance amount of data right now, but how to be effective with it is probably going to be the challenge. And then the other aspect of it is nurturing the talent of the future. So I'm a huge advocate of bringing in interns into the company, but actually there's a really interesting role reversal when you bring in someone like an intern, especially for someone like me, whereby they come in socially baked. So, you know, that skill set you immediately recruit when you bring in an intern, and what they get in return is the years of coaching and mentoring that we're able to offer. So for me, you know, that almost becomes the stamp of how we future-proof our roles.
I've got a lot of interns and apprentices in my team at Microsoft, and I always learn at least one thing when I have a meeting with them. Always, always, always. And it's that thing of the most senior person is not always the one who's teaching nowadays, for sure.
It's interesting, and I think certainly in my experience, you know, many of our recruitment strategies are changing dramatically on the basis of it, because we weren't born in the digital world, most of us, although I agree with you. Get rid of the word digital marketing. Yes. Talking about future-proofing our roles, Mark, I love your view of the fact that part of future-proofing our roles is seeing ourselves anyway already as the most valuable asset in our businesses. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think everybody's touched on the role of marketing and how it's changing. I think I talk more about us as a business asset now. I like the idea of the ownership we have now around budget and business strategy. It's much more front-facing now. I think the biggest future value I think marketing has is that relationship. There's that fundamental traditional alignment to the number of leads we have to pass into the business. But I think, and we've touched on this a few times, the value of us understanding more pre-lead, almost that prospect, the journey that customers are on, the way they're interacting with marketing materials, etc., to give us more of the value of time in this process, because that traditional BANT qualified lead, I think the time piece has changed enormously. And someone going on a journey, so much of what we do at Rackspace is around understanding customers' problems. And there's an element of time that you have to engage with, the right time, if you like, to have those conversations. So for us, it's a lot about the value we play in that entire journey, and much more investment now is spent on the prospects as opposed to the, you know, as they walk through the door, so to speak. So interesting, yeah.
Great, thank you. Catherine, over to you. How do we future-proof our roles?
I think first and foremost, not worrying about future-proofing your role, because you might end up redundant or needing to move on if you've done a good enough job at improving the value of marketing to the business. So I think maybe not being concerned with the future-proofing and more being concerned with embracing the growth and change that is just a reality of what we're all doing. So, but I think I love the concept of growth mindset, so always looking to learn. Most marketers are naturally curious, so you know, we're here to learn, we're evolving as the technology and the customers evolve. So I think future-proofing for me is more about like always having that desire to learn, embracing all the change that comes and the technology that comes, and then really like maintaining this unshakable belief in the value of marketing to businesses. And obviously the drive to prove that is really important. But like you say, if we are really owning the commercial value of what we're doing and producing, then marketing and therefore the CMO are going to be functions that are preserved when maybe other things are being changed.
Let's hope so. Time will tell.
Crossed.
Scott, should we care about future-proofing our roles?
I wouldn't get too hung up about personally future-proofing the role you do today, because if I think about the type of people I hire now versus even 5 years ago, they're different. So I think our roles will evolve. I think the big thing that we need to be careful of as marketeers and leaders is transformation is exciting, but transformation is hard. And the problem with transformation is you get very internally focused very quickly. You know, what tools do I need? What process I need? Am I hiring the right people? Are my stakeholders happy? And that's important. But what I think is also important as well is showing that you're adding value externally as well. So I spend more time with customers than I ever have done, and that's because the sales teams want me to, because we've got a story to tell about how we're modernising marketing, and our customers want to hear that. So therefore, try to, what I say, take the human out of the marketing department rather than just the activity, and use those humans who have the experience within the team to also be external facing and add value to the sales cycle. And then I think that generally you will get seen as being more impactful to the business rather than just being seen as the marketing department.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the human element is often forgotten about when we get so wrapped up in our various BI dashboards and the tech tools at our fingertips. Louise, how do you see it? Is it all about the external versus internal juggling piece?
I think it's, I mean, Scott made a very good point. It's about sort of what the customer needs and what your business needs to grow around that. So if I look at my team, for example, I have a lot more technical people in the team than I ever have done before to process the data and to give us the information. But it's also around building those relationships. So if you're building a deep relationship with the customer, they have to know you face to face, you have to have that. And it's what you mentioned at the beginning, which is there is no substitute for the face to face side of things. So my team will look very different probably in a year's time from now. And I'm interested to see, will it look more technical? Will we have gone back to people who are just much more around relationship building? And I think it's always taking in the data points, what the customer's asking for.
It's interesting because I think the onus is very much on us to make sure that we are reassessing the skills and expertise within our team to make sure that we are absolutely keeping up with changing customer requirements.